Hello. I looked away from my phone for just a second and I missed the "you're live" message. So I looked back, I was like, I'm live. Welcome to another episode of the Non-Native Teacher Diaries. My thanks again to all of you who have been following along so far and, engaging in the comments and all of that stuff. I have a really exciting guest this week. I think you might remember from some of my first lives that I said, hey, if you or anyone you know should be a guest, let me know. And this person reached out to me and said, I have a lot to say about this. Can I please be a guest? And I said, absolutely. So really excited to get to welcome her on. And yeah, I think she's already requested to join. So I'm just going to jump straight into it instead of trying to do a preamble. You might remember from Tuesday's live that when I let Mary in, there was a technical issue and I had already used up all my chat on the introduction. So don't want to make that mistake again. I need to have chat spare if things go wrong. Okay, technical stuff now. Hopefully she'll be with us in just a second. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, Huyen. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly. I'm just going to adjust my camera a little bit so it has my head in the shot. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, I can hear you and see you very well. I think I look a little bit dark for some reason, like the light is not so good. No,
Okay.
it's okay. It's fine.
We can.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for reaching out. And I want to take this opportunity to say, if anyone watching is like, wait, we're allowed to volunteer? Yes, you're allowed to volunteer to be a guest. There are still some spaces available. I mean, I'll just keep doing it as long as I've got volunteers. So thank you so much, Huyen, for reaching out and saying, I've got things to say. I'd like to say them, please.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's such a wonderful series, because I think I appreciate it very much because it comes from you and a native speaker who is actually reaching out to acknowledge the differences in treatments for native speaker teachers and non-native speaker teachers. So I mean, I've been talking about it so much with my followers and everyone. And I think it's like I thought at one point I thought I was talking too much about that. And okay, maybe it's enough. Let's just stop talking about it. But then I saw your series and I was like, yes, this is my space.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad, and I'm interested. Perhaps we'll get onto it later. In that question of, oh, am I talking about this too much? Because that's something that I have had in. I don't think it's come up in this series, but in private conversations with teachers, where they do feel a pressure of like, oh, is this, maybe my followers don't want to hear this, maybe it's a bit negative, maybe it's a bit whiny. And I think that's a really interesting question of, is there such thing as too much? Yes or no?
Well, I mean, I'm not so sure if it's kind of too much or not. It is just a sense of maybe they're not following me for this reason.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also got questions because I don't teach general English. I prep people for the IELTS exam. And as far as I am concerned, if I had to go to an exam, I would choose the person who has done it and who has succeeded in the exam, because they would know more, right? But I still got questions from people asking me, oh, so where are you from? And I actually had a very interesting conversation with one of my friends. She's also an IELTS teacher. She's from India. And that one time she was telling me that there was somebody who was asking her about her classes. And she said, okay, this is the classes and this is the cost of the class and everything. And the person had the audacity to tell my friend that you are charging too much for an Indian. Yeah. So that happened to her. And before that point, I was like, maybe it's too much. I shouldn't be talking about this so much. But from that point onward, I'd be like, nope, I'm gonna keep talking about this. That is not gonna stop me. If you don't like me talking about this, just leave.
Absolutely. My
Yeah.
God. My God. Yeah. That's so interesting because I think that question, when you are self-employed and you're setting your own prices, there are so many doubts in your head about, is this the right price? Is this asking too much? You look around at the kind of average prices, but then the average prices are terrifying because you can get people selling English teaching for like $7 an hour online. You're like, well, I'm not doing that. And it can be so conflicting. And then to have somebody, and I've had it, but obviously not for not being a native teacher. I've just had it for like, you're too expensive. But to have somebody probably, and I don't want to speak to your friend, speak for your friend. I obviously haven't met her and don't know what she's thinking, but to maybe have someone identify an insecurity that you might already have in the back of your mind from perhaps previous comments or things you've seen, to then go, that's the reason that you're too expensive. Oh, it gives me shivers just thinking about how that must have felt to receive that message.
Yeah, yeah. So I told her that I'm very sorry to hear this. I obviously got some comments, similar comments, but not this kind of thing. So I would have comments where people said, okay, where are you from? And I said, okay, I'm from Vietnam. And they said, oh, okay. So, like you are building up so much of expectation for them. You sound so good. You sound like you have experience and everything. But then where you from, by the way? Well, I'm from Vietnam. Oh, okay. So you can see that expectation just drop like that. In the beginning it was a horrible feeling, but I got used to it. And instead of getting so upset about this, I just felt the urge to tell them that, okay, think about this and then let me know, because I don't think it would be worth it to keep explaining to every single person who discriminates against you just based on your skin color or your the way you sound and all, because they will not understand. In my opinion, they will not understand. So I just stopped explaining individually, but I ran with my followers.
No,
So sometimes
that's great.
yeah, that's okay. But I think it's wonderful that you as a native English speaker and also a teacher is reaching out to us and give us the platform to speak up, to tell our story, and to share our experiences. And I think it's very important to be acknowledged. That's the first thing, because a lot of people still do not acknowledge that we exist, that non-native speakers exist, and we can teach English as well. Because even I watched all the lives that you had, and you talked about the internalized feelings and thoughts that we have as a non-native teacher and non-native speaker, and we think that native speakers are better, and that is so true. It is so true. I remember when I was working in Vietnam, I got paid $150 for a month, and I worked more than 40 hours a week. It's an average. It's an average of the Vietnamese salary, a little bit higher than my colleague actually. But non-Vietnamese teachers would get $850 for working
150 versus
$150.
150.
Yeah, but they worked only 25 hours a week, and I worked 40 hours a week. And particularly, I'm not talking about race and whatever, but the skin color matters so much. Actually, if you are white and you are from a native speaking country, you get 1,500 for 25 hours of working, to compare to me working 40 hours a week. And I got $150. That's how I was treated. And the more I was treated that way, the more I started to feel so insecure, because at one point I was looking at my foreign colleagues, and I was constantly searching for the approval of my knowledge, of my English, because, oh, hey, they are foreigners, they are native speakers, they must know better than I do. And I kind of constantly looking for their approval, to say that, okay, your English is good. So my breaking point to, like away from this was that one time I had a colleague, and he had a he's white. He had a constant mispronunciation of a word, right? And I told him, not because I wanted to nitpick, because we were having a conversation about pronunciation of Vietnamese people and people in general. And I said, oh, by the way, this is what you say. He said, no, you were wrong. It's not me. I didn't say that. I never spoke like that. And he said it. And then I was like, okay. Okay. I didn't mean to be mean or to be nitpicking, because for me, they were better than me. So for me to tell my teacher, like my teacher, that, it would be a little bit weird, but I was kind of, maybe he would think. And later on, like a week after this, he came to me and he's like, you know what, you were right. I did speak like that. And I said, oh, okay, that's nice. That's nice.
I mean, a part of my really low expectation for this man that you've just described is like, oh, he apologized. That's really good. And then like a week later, after initially dismissing your comment, my standards for him are very low in my head. Oh, he apologized. That's great.
But so the thing about this is acknowledgement. First of all, we should acknowledge that, yeah, mistakes are made by everybody in the world. It's not only native, it's not only non-native, it happened everywhere in the world. So I started to feel like maybe it's time I should embrace my teaching as a non-native teacher, because what I noticed during the class time when I was back in Vietnam was that a lot of times, so all the students could speak English. They could understand basic English from a teacher. So there were not like misunderstandings between teachers and students. But there were a lot of occasions where the foreign teachers and also native teachers had to go and ask us, Vietnamese teachers, to explain, not in Vietnamese, but in English, so that students would understand, because we had a policy at work that we would not speak Vietnamese in class, to encourage students to speak English more. And a lot of times I was asked to go to the class to explain in plain English for my students, for students to actually understand the foreign teachers and the native teachers. And that was, the more I did that, the more I realized that, hey, it's actually making sense now, because I have been there. I have been through this learning process. So I know exactly how, what the problem is and what they are facing as struggling right now. So it was easier for me to explain to them the problem. And then it was easier for me to explain the solutions as well, because they understood the problems. So that was, the more I did that, the more I realized that, hey, it's fine. So I slowly distanced myself from thinking that native speakers are better than me. So I think at the moment I am at the point where I hope that I think we're equal. I think we're equal. I think and I believe and I know that I can do what you can do and you can do what I can do. It's not like I am better than you or you are better than me. We are equals. It's the matter of experience and it's the matter of style. That's all. It's not like skin colors, it's not nationalities or whatsoever. Even qualifications wouldn't define a good teacher. So experience to me is more important. And style as well. Obviously, some people like to be like a very strict teacher, and some people like very friendly and like a friend teacher. So yeah, so I'm at the point where I think we're equal.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. And you've raised loads and loads of interesting things, and I hope that my brain will remember them as we go through this conversation. But one thing that just I'm interested in where you are now. Do you think you are now leaning into your identity as a non-native teacher and kind of saying, actually, you want me because I'm non-native? Or is there a sense of like, actually, that really isn't something that you, the student, should be thinking about, and I'm not going to engage? Where are you?
This is actually a very, very good question. I haven't thought about this
Sorry.
so much. I'm glad that you brought it up, so it got me thinking now. So here's what's gonna happen, okay? If somebody comes to my inbox and asks me for like classes, and we would have a conversation, blah blah blah, and everything goes well, and suddenly they would ask me, hey, but by the way, where are you from? So my very first thought would be, why are you asking that? Because it feels like a trauma, because I have had bad experience with that question before.
Yeah.
That's why whenever I get it now, no matter where it comes from, like it probably comes from a place where people are just curious, but my very first thought would be, oh, why asking that question? Why does it even matter? But then I also remind myself that, hey, you are doing a service business here. Be nice and don't be rude to people. And second thing is, be open, because probably they are asking it because they're just very curious about you. So I would say, yeah, I'm from Vietnam. Where are you from? Yeah, I asked the question back to them. So I'm from Vietnam. Where are you from? And then, okay, I'm from A, B, C, D, E. And then, so have you been to Vietnam? Or I have been to your country, etc. Right? But that that conversation sometimes leads to, of course, unpleasant experiences. But in general, I think I have learned to handle it. And I remember one time on TikTok, because I started on TikTok. So on TikTok, I made a video about how we non-native speakers, we tend to look at each other's grammar and nitpick on each other's grammar.
Yep, I've seen it.
It is
really dirty world.
It is really bad. Just don't get me started on it. So I made a video about that, and there's one person, he commented, he or she or they, it's very, I don't know, so they commented on the video saying that, oh, your accent is really good for a Vietnamese. Like, I mean, your accent is really good. It's already like touching, like touche, okay? Like really.
Yeah, you don't need to say that.
You don't have to say that. You just don't have to say that. Just say your English is good, or I can understand you clearly. Just like a follower here just commented, right? He said, I can clearly understand you, and that's good. That's good enough. Doesn't have to say your English is good, your accent is good for a Vietnamese. That's just you just went too far. So that's what I am right now. Of course, I still have. If you think about it, it is still a little bit of insecurity when it comes to being asked the question, "Hey, where are you from?" Because probably they asked because they want to know a native speaker. But then I would also remind myself that, hey, it might be something, we should explore here. Maybe they're just curious about you.
Yeah.
That's where I am now.
What I really love about your response of kind of, I'm from Vietnam, where are you from? Is that it takes that question, because when you were first saying, the question, where are you from, is kind of triggering, I was thinking about the different contexts in which you can be asked it. And like, there are bad reasons for asking this question in a social setting as well, but you can imagine kind of meeting somebody new and you kind of, maybe you detect an accent, maybe they say something about living in a different country and you're like, okay, you're not from the environment in which the rest of us are from. Where are you from? Social situation, I'm trying to get to know you. Okay, assuming it's not you look different, where are you from, then okay, we have a fine question. But obviously within the context of, I'm considering paying you money for English classes, let me just double check, where are you from? that's obviously okay, well, you seem to think this question has a bearing on our, you know, educational transaction that we're trying to do. And what I love about your response takes it out of that kind of, are you a good enough teacher for me potential context, and makes it social. It makes it, oh, you know, I'm going to presume that you're just asking me because you want to find out about me, and I want to find out about you. And it takes that like potentially question and turns it into a human question. And obviously their response may take it right back to the bad version of the question.
Yeah.
We can't control that. But I love that you're kind of taking that narrative and saying, I'm going to assume that you are just curious about me and not looking for a native teacher. And I really like that.
Yeah. I think I have gone past the idea of getting so sensitive about this. I think I have gone past that. Of course, there's still some trauma there. I still have to process it. But in general, I think it is good for a non-native speaker to actually embrace their process of learning, because the majority of, not the majority, I think everyone who speak English as a second language can speak at least another language, right? I speak 4 languages.
Wow.
And some people speak 5 languages. And yes, we have to embrace our our process of learning. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, for a teacher, if a teacher can embrace and can be very proud of their accent, of their journey, of everything, that would benefit the students even more, because they actually went through the whole process and now they are sharing their experience as well. So students have to understand, when they pay for a non-native teacher, they are not only paying for whatever in the class, they're paying for a journey of years and years of studying and of discrimination that they have gone through. And that is, for me, it can make the learning process so much more colorful, right? So I would appreciate it more if my teacher shared with me, you know, her learning process and everything. I learned French from a Polish lady, and she was amazing, and she was probably the best language teacher that I have ever had in my life. So I learned French in 9 months.
Wow.
Thanks to her. Yeah, and she just gave me all the things, and she encouraged me and everything. So that is what I was talking about when it comes to being a non-native teacher. You have so much more to offer, not only your knowledge. And if you think about it, in that, you know, kind of lens, you will see yourself as a native teacher. You'd be like, oh, I don't have that experience as she does. Maybe I should also explore that by learning another language. When you learn, let's say when you learn Romanian, because I know some teachers are learning Romanian, French, German. When you learn a language, you'd be like, oh, okay, I understand German right now, so I know what German people are suffering from. I can teach them better. So it's kind of, you know, encouragement if you think of it that way, because I don't think it is fair to look at the way that you speak and, you know, where you're from, whether your mother tongue is English or not, to determine the level of a teacher. That's what I believe.
I agree. I completely agree. One of my best employers here in Edinburgh, when I was working at language schools here, she had a criteria on her, like, any applicant teacher had, if they weren't a non-native teacher and obviously had 2 languages that way, they had to speak a second language. They had to have had experience. In the case of all the staff that, which is quite common within English language teaching, they had all lived abroad and had learnt languages there, but also in school. And it was exactly the reason you've just described. Like, how can you support people through a process if you haven't been through it to some degree yourself? It's like, I speak Spanish, but I now work with such high level English speakers that I don't speak Spanish to that level. Like, I have like a C1. These guys are like C2 and beyond. You know, I can't relate to everything they're going through, but nonetheless, I have an idea of what it is to start speaking and think you know the end of the sentence and then go, oh God, there's a word, how do I get around it? And all the other things about living in a different country. And, I can relate to some of that stuff, which just gives you, I mean, if nothing else, a level of empathy to what your students are going through and the skills of that, which I can't imagine being able to do if I didn't have that. And then obviously the added bonus, if you've learned English as a second language and are teaching English as a second language, well, you then know it in the specifics. You know exactly what it is to speak English as a second language, which is, something I won't have experience of.
Yeah, so it's both is a two-way road for both you and me. You're a native teacher, and now you have acknowledged that there are non-native English speaking teachers, and they are teaching well as I do. And now I want to have the same experience, so I'm going to improve myself. So it's kind of self-improvement journey for yourself. If you have, so it always starts when you have acknowledged the world, like everything that's going around you. I think one of the reasons I was thinking that I was talking too much about, native speaker and non-native speaker is that I would think that if they can if they see me being negative too much about this, it sounds like I'm combating with other native teachers. I am kind of comparing myself, and I am trying to put them down, but this is not the case. The case is I want people to understand that we are equal and we can do the exact thing. So I can do the same thing as you do, and you can do the same thing as I do, as long as we have experience and we have the let's say the passion for the job that we're doing. So in my opinion, so I know that you've been asking people what they think about the terminology non-native speaker, right? I don't see it as a negative term at all, because as I expressed myself, I think it's just another way to say that I have gone through this. I have gone through the learning process, and I embrace it, and I'm fine. Just the same thing as when we say you are an accountant and you are not an accountant, or you are a teacher and you are not a teacher. That's just the same thing. It's just you are the teacher, so you've gone through the teaching process and learning how to teach. And if you're a computer scientist, you have learned that as well. So as a non-native teacher, the first thing I would tell myself, I would market myself, is that I am a non-native teacher. I have gone through this process myself. I have learned it, and now you can see the result is this. This is the result. You can hear me, you can understand me perfectly, no problem, right? And I do have a little bit of an accent, and that's fine because I have learned it, and so I can market myself like that. I think that's something I should be proud of. I shouldn't look at it as a very negative, from a negative lens.
Yeah.
So there's no way we can eliminate this terminology ever, because we do have native English speaker, we have native Spanish speaker, we have a native Vietnamese speaker. I am a native Vietnamese speaker, and you are a native English speaker. Native because we were born speaking that language. But as a non-native English teacher, I mean, I can speak another language, I can speak English, and I'm teaching English to you. So that is how I'm going to market myself if I had to.
I think that's amazing. I think that's really, really good. I was talking with somebody in the comments the other day. I'm aware of the time. We're going to wrap the conversation up in a minute.
Yeah.
I was chatting to somebody in the comments to one of the reels that I posted on this topic, and they were talking about the circular nature of marketing, because schools, and we're talking really about schools more than individual teachers, because I don't think you can blame individual teachers, but marketing will say, we have native teachers, and then all the students who go like, oh wow, native teachers, they're proud of it, it must be good. and then they then demand native teachers, and then schools say, well, we can't hire you because we can't sell you, we can't sell the product with you in it because people want not we're native, and blah 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 blah. It keeps going. And I would love to see, not just, I mean, I think it's amazing that you're doing it on an individual level, but I would love to see it on like a kind of mass market industry level, really saying like, we have, I mean, you know, I don't want to do myself out of a job. Native teachers can still get employed, of course, but it not be, we've got native teachers, that's good. We've got experienced teachers, we've got qualified teachers, we've got teachers who know how to get you from A to B, which is really what teaching is. I think often there's this confusion in the native teachers like worship world. There's a confusion between a teacher and a language model. Like, they sound nice, therefore I mean, sound is already a judgment, but therefore they must be really good at helping me sound like that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, if listening to me for 1 hour a week made you sound just like me, then you should sound like every Hollywood movie you've ever watched. That doesn't work.
That is true.
It doesn't work.
True.
You need somebody who can really help you get from where you are to where you want to be, with all the little intermediary steps, and understand how to make that journey with you. That's an experienced teacher. And if you happen to have a teacher who's done that journey before and understands the route, well, then surely that's a benefit, not a disadvantage.
Exactly. That's how I view it. That's how I see it. And I think it's so initially when I started TikTok and Instagram and all, I follow a bunch of teachers, including you. You were the very, like, a few first people I followed. I just had it like a month, like a year ago on Instagram. So I follow a lot of teachers, and the more I follow them, the more I realize, okay, they're selling some accent modification courses and fix your accents and how to sound like a British person and how to sound American, you know. I'd be like, no, I'm unfollowing you. Do not need that in my life. And of course, I'm not going to jump into the comment section saying that, hey, don't do it. But it's okay. It's people's learning process. They probably learn it in the future as well. But again, I appreciate it because you like have acknowledged it, because I have seen non-native teachers talking about this, but to see a native teacher kind of acknowledging our process, that's nice. It's like it's been, you know, paid off kind of thing, kind of feeling. Not to say that I'm seeking your approval. I'm just saying that it's now being understood by not only non-natives but also native speakers as well, right? So that's what, and I think, yes, we should have an institution that can, you know, give us the whole entire marketing scheme where you say, oh, hey, this is the Vietnamese teacher. She has learned it. Just learn from her.
Absolutely. I'm going to draw the conversation to a close now, Huyen. Huyen.
Yes, that's
I have to tell you very quickly. I was so for those watching, I requested a voice note from Huyen for how to pronounce her name, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And you said it was very good, which is the like most. If I get told that I have pronounced a foreign word correctly, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the best compliment I could ever
receive. Yes. Agree.
But I was listening to it again to make sure that I got it right for this. And the way that I've remembered it is that first vowel sounds, at least to my ear, like the word who in English, but in a Scottish accent. So it's like, who? Huyen.
Oh.
Huyen.
All right.
So like, who is a very like Glasgow way of saying who.
Okay, I didn't know
that was how I'm remembering it in my mind. But
okay, that's great.
Just before we wrap up, do you have any final message, anything you haven't had a chance to say that you want to before we say goodbye today?
Now, I think I have said everything that I wanted to say. I just want to send a message to, you know, non-native teachers. Don't be you know, just don't let anybody decide who you are, and you can just be you, and you can get to where you want to be. And the most important thing is to embrace or to be proud of whatever you have been through and whatever you have achieved until this point and in the future as well. So the more non-native teachers and native teachers come together and we acknowledge these differences and our experiences, the better our students will definitely benefit. So I think that's just the best way to look at it.
Absolutely. And I second everything that you've just said there.
Yeah.
So thank you, Huyen, for joining me today. Thank you for volunteering and saying, hey, can I come on? Anyone watching who wants to come on and is like, I think I have things to say about this, send me a DM. I'm happy to consider you. I've got people booked up for the next few weeks, but we can always extend this series. That's not a problem. Quick shout out as well to those of you who haven't yet signed up for the digital retreat. If you haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, head over to my profile. I've got a post, and if you head to the link in my bio, you can sign up. But that is starting tomorrow, taking place Friday and Saturday this weekend, and it's a whole bunch of teachers who are practicing a kind of mindful, responsible, calm way of teaching English, and absolutely not what Huyen was just mentioning about the kind of fix your accent or basic, you want to sound advanced. None of that aggression. We are all chill vibes, and that's happening this weekend, and you can still sign up. So my thanks once again to you, Huyen, and once again to all of you listeners for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rhiannon. Thank you, and I see you. Bye.
Bye.